5 years and still talking. This is GabNet, the Great American Broadcast Network. Talk like you've never heard it before.
Hey! Yes, live from Harlem, it's the Ramble with me. I'm Alex Bennett, and we will be here until midnight tonight. And good evening to all of you. I don't have any guests tonight. I didn't record anybody because I'm kind of going light on doing the interviews in advance because I don't know how much time I'm going to be taking off next week. I may be taking off one day. I may be taking off the whole week. We don't know how I'm going to feel at the time because I'm having a procedure. Is that the best way of putting it? Yeah, a procedure. Anyway, what we thought we would do, we rely on this. We have a lot of Will Durst interviews that we did over the years, and as you know, Will is not well right now. He is down with a stroke, actually, but he's getting better. And according to his wife, Debbie, he's starting to move limbs, and he's starting to speak better, and so on and so forth. And I told him, well, for good therapy, just stick a microphone in front of his mouth. You know, but anyway, we'll wait and see what happens. But in the meantime, we have all these interviews we did with him, and I like to run them every now and then because, gee, he is so smart, and he is so funny, and he is so good, and he sounds something like this. Ladies and gentlemen, there's our guest for tonight. Which one is that? Eloise?
Eloise, very good.
Eloise, I'm getting good at recognizing your cat.
My cats, yes.
Yeah. She just wants to keep her tail in the picture, that's all. And they have more tail. They always know when something's, facing them, right? You know, when the camera's on.
She does know when the camera's on.
Yeah. How you doing today, Will Durst?
I'm good. How's it going, Alex Bennett?
I've been going through a little sicky thing. I think it's. I went to the doctor. He thinks it's pollen.
Pollen?
Yeah, it's like affecting my throat, and I have a little slight feel like I have to cough, and
right. Keep the windows closed.
I can't do that. You know why? Because my wife, God bless her soul, has this whole deal where she doesn't want to do that. You know. So,
okay.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. So I've got. She likes to have the windows open, and I've been told if it's pollen season and you want to keep the pollen out, keep the windows fucking closed. But she yeah. So she doesn't care if I'm wheezing, if I'm dizzy, if I've got all this stuff. Like I went to the doctor. Went to the doctor yesterday. I went to one of these clinics, one of these walk-in places the other day, and he tested me out, and he checked my heart, did an EKG, and found that there was something wrong with it. Well, there always is something wrong with my EKG because I have a bundle or something that I have a slight murmur.
Some sort of arrhythmia. Arrhythmia?
No. It's a heart murmur. Okay, it's a aortic stenosis. But so I went to my other doctor yesterday, and he's a cardiologist, and he gave me an echocardiogram and said, hey, your aorta is a little more clogged, but not, he says, if it keeps going at this rate, you'll be dead of something else before. And I said, do you have to say that? Do you have to say I'll be dead? He said, I know it's a little morbid, but you're not going to die from this aortic stenosis. So he said, I can't find anything wrong with you, so it's probably the allergies. It's probably the pollen. Because supposedly pollen is just running rampant this year. Just horrible.
Do you have air conditioning?
Yes. I don't care unless I have the air conditioner on all the time, which isn't necessary. She wants the window open. I'm going to have
obvious answer.
I think a divorce.
And you have an obvious obstacle.
I think a divorce is the answer. You know, yes, of course, there's an obvious answer to all of this. At least it will minimize it, you know. But the pollen just keeps wafting into the house, you know. So,
Can't you make her a deal like a week on and a week off?
no, no. In this house, it's her way or the highway.
Hey,
Everything has to be done just right. The bed has to be made in a certain way. You know, I mean, quite frankly, when I wasn't married, I never made the bed. You know,
I would straighten it.
I would straighten it a little bit, if I got too much food on the sheets, I'd change them.
You and Marilyn Monroe, apparently.
Well, I used to eat on the bed. I used to literally. I had this was in New York. I had a tarp I would throw down on top of the bed, and we'd sit there and eat on the bed. I didn't have a dining room table.
And then you would hose the tarp off?
If it got bad, we'd hose the tarp off, yeah, and then, you know. And plus, it was convenient because usually I was having dinner with a date, and there was very little places we had to go after dinner, but right under the sheets. So it was
really cut down to the commute.
When they came over, I would make the bed. Yeah.
And the tarp.
And I'd wash the tarp in their honor.
Yeah.
If my wife is listening right now, she's probably going apoplectic. Okay, because the whole idea of eating in bed, that's another thing of her. Don't eat in bed, you're going to get crumbs in the bed. I don't care. I'll vacuum the bed. That's what I used to do. When's the last time you ever vacuumed the bed? Vacuum the bed.
We have popcorn in bed, and I always have to get out the towel and wipe the salt out of the bed.
Well, we have one of those hand vacs,
Yeah.
Yeah, that used to do it for me. Never had this problem with other wives, just this one. And of course...
Yeah, they get set in their ways down the line.
Also, what's interesting is I had asthma as a kid, and it seems like it's back again, actually, somewhat. Not actual asthma, but being allergic to stuff. For a while, when I moved to New York years ago, I lost all those allergies. And then when I went back to California, I didn't seem to have them.
Oh.
And then I came back to New York, and now I seem to be getting these allergies again. So, what the hell?
A, B, B, A. Yeah.
So much about my health. How's your health?
Knock on wood, not good for Micah. Everything's good so far.
Yeah.
I get tired faster, but...
I'm tired all the time. What do you mean?
I can always, as long as I can stand up and do a 90-minute show, I'm fine.
Yeah.
But if I know I'm going to do a show that night...
Yeah, you have to get a nap.
I can't go to the museum during the day.
Oh, I see. Okay. You can't do anything that takes energy.
Museums are what lose out.
Well, you're how old now? You're 95, something like that. How old are you?
Something like that. Yeah, 95 minus 20, 28.
No, you're 65 or something like that, around
67, yeah.
67.
And you're 70.
I'm 79, so you can only imagine how tired you can imagine how tired I get.
Yeah. Yeah, do you take a nap every day?
No. But then I do the show at night, and I do coffee, and about an hour in, it used to be I could do the 2 hours standing on my head, and now an hour in, I'm starting to get drowsy. So,
Hey, but you can sleep at night after drinking coffee?
Yeah, because I get drowsy. No, sometimes I have to take something like a Xanax or lately I've decided I'll take Benadryl. That puts me to sleep,
No idea what any of those are.
Benadryl is a decongestant antihistamine.
Oh. And
antihistamines are good because they're not going to kill you. You could, you just dry up and turn into powder. I don't know,
dry up.
Yeah, dry up. Yeah. So anyway, how's business? He's a comic and he does comedy stuff.
I do the funny comedy humor thing, and get a gig. Had a gig on Sunday and Father's Day. Not bad.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote all this new material, and I want to unveil it at the Punchline. I'm going to be at the Punchline a week from tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I'm busy rehearsing it, and I go off, and this is my new set right here.
Yeah.
And it's only 4 pages, and I got most of it out on Sunday, and I got a gig Thursday and Friday, so hopefully I can. Yeah. So that's the hard part.
Every comedian, it's interesting. Every comedian works differently. You write it all out, right?
Yeah, I need a script.
You have a script. Other comedians have the jokes, they know what they are, and then they just go up and start doing the act. There are some who never write them down.
No.
You know?
Those guys have funny bones. I don't have funny bones.
I don't know.
I'm a writer who performs.
Slayton has funny bones, but I've seen him with his notes. You know, because I think it has something to do. Doesn't it have something to do with remembering the joke too? That if you just made it up and said, "I'll put that in the act," and you didn't write it down, you'd forget it.
Everybody's different, as you say. I am very dependent on the words.
Yeah. Well, your whole show is precise about words and the order in which they come and so on and so forth. Yeah. So you're working the Punchline. The Punchline's closing down, right?
Man, it's such a we have no idea what because we've heard different things. First, we heard that the landlord, which is Morgan Stanley, owns the building. The landlord was going to sell that building and the building next to it, which used to be the old Waldorf, going to sell that and the Alcoa building, which is across that the whole thing was going to be sold to Google.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had this huge NATO Green put together a protest, and City Steps and Aaron Peskin and Dave Chappelle came down to give it some publicity.
Mm-hmm.
And then Google was reached by one of the TV stations and said, "We are looking forward to having the Punchline as our neighbor." So then it kind of seemed that Morgan Stanley was using Google as a Judas goat so that they didn't have to take the weight, and because everybody in town here is so used to blaming Google for everything,
right?
Just fit another thing, and so then Google
because the rumor
said, "No, it's not us."
The rumor running
Morgan Stanley shut up, won't talk to anybody, and Punchline still, and Aaron Peskin put through a temporary zoning restriction so that space of the Punchline can only be used for entertainment.
Wow.
So we have no idea what Morgan Stanley or Google, we have no idea.
Yeah.
I'll find out next week.
Well, the rumor running around was that Google wanted to turn it into a gym for their people. You heard that one, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it may not close down then.
And we don't know. And they're talking about the beginning of August or the end of August. Yeah. All I know is August was mentioned.
Let's tell people about the Punchline. It's a club that's been there for how many years now?
Since I think 1978. I think 41.
Yeah, 41 years. 1978. I got to San Francisco in late 79. Came back to San Francisco, late 79. So it was in operation when I was there, So, and
it's the perfect size. It's
a perfect
140, club. I think, after the fire restrictions. It used to be 160, 180, but they had to take the seats along that one wall there by the front door.
Yeah.
Because the fire marshals came in.
It's perfect because
the floor is parquet. And the walls are all brick, real brick, not phony brick, but real brick.
Yeah.
And then they got this beautiful mural in front. But the laughs bounce off that parquet and off the brick. And the audiences think they're having a much better time than they actually are.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. When you talk about brick walls, comedy clubs by law have to have a brick wall.
No, it works out acoustically.
No. But here's what I'm saying. it seems as though every club, even if it isn't a real brick wall, has a phony brick wall.
Yeah,
The
it
comedy
does.
clubs. In fact,
And there was a reason for it. And then they started putting up these plastic replicas.
well, no. Here's what happened in Florida. When I was down in Florida, there was this comedy promoter who did comedy at various venues around town during the week, and he literally had a portable brick wall that went to each of the clubs. So here we are in front of our brick wall doing comedy.
Yeah, it became a signifier.
I
It's
think
like,
I think that was the who was it? What's the club? The big club that was in New York and then went to L.A.
Catch Rising Star?
Huh? No, the other one.
Improv?
Improv. I think because the Improv on A&E did their shows, and there was a brick wall there. Everybody felt they had to have a brick wall.
I think
that's
the
my
brick
theory.
wall started earlier,
Yeah.
than the Improv. Yeah,
But anyway, the Punchline is a very perfect intimate club.
yeah, it's a civic jewel.
Yeah, and it's continued to make money. It's not going broke, right?
I don't know. All I know is I make the same amount of money headlining as I did my first week there of headlining, which was 1980. When did I win the comedy competition? 83, 84.
I don't know.
Anyhow, I got a headlining week after I won the comedy competition, and I'm making, so 34 years later, I'm still making the same money.
Well, technically they're paying less.
Oh yeah, because the door, went up from $10 if it was $10, and now it's like 25.
Yeah, but most of those clubs don't actually charge at the door because they have these twofers they hand out around town, so that people come into the club. It's like you get two tickets, come on in for free. Now here are the drinks; they're $40 a piece.
Yeah. And Gold Star and Groupon and
yeah.
Marketing is totally different.
Yeah. But it would be sad if the Punchline went away, only because it just represents something.
They've had an open mic every Sunday since 1979. Every Sunday
and
night.
open mics, folks, are important because that's where new comics go in and can learn how to be a comic. Actually, have an audience that tells them you're not funny yet. And then one night you go in and you get some laughs and you go, I'm finally funny.
Yeah, it used to be when I got here, you were an open micer.
Yeah.
You were an MC.
Mm-hmm.
Then you were a middle act. Then you were a headliner. Then you moved to L.A. And that was the natural progression, which usually took 2.5 years to get through from initially starting out in the city.
Yeah, but
San Francisco was a way station. It wasn't a destination.
You know what the problem to me always was with that hierarchy was that some people were able to jump it. And here's how they did it. If you were a certain kind of act, nobody wanted to follow you. Nobody wanted to follow an act with props.
Bobcat.
Yeah. Nobody wanted to follow somebody who screams. Okay. And so consequently, something like Bob Goldthwait, he went straight to headliner. Where if he wasn't a screamer, he probably would have had to work his way up.
Yeah, but he also came kind of fully formed from Boston.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't like he had, I came from Milwaukee. I wasn't getting the same kind of repetition on stage that other people were getting in other cities. Chicago, you could get up every day, every night. Boston, you could get up every night. I still don't understand why he went to San Francisco instead of New York.
Who?
Bobcat.
Bobcat. I don't think New York, oddly enough, wasn't a jumping off point. It wasn't a point at which you could build a reputation. It's where you went once you had one. The two cities that were engendering that embracing that kind of growth that you have to have in order to be a comic were Boston, which was a hotbed of comedy and so on.
Especially if you were a white male.
Gave us the likes of Bobcat and Kevin Meaney, and I'm trying to remember all the other people. Dana Gould.
Paula Poundstone.
Mm-hmm. then you would, San Francisco was the other city that was good this way. So if you were in Boston and you wanted to go somewhere else, you came to San Francisco. You didn't go to L.A. L.A. was where you went after you made it in San Francisco.
Yeah.
And the only reason you went to L.A. is you wanted to be seen on stage so that maybe some TV network would see you and give you a sitcom, and then you never have to go on stage again. Really, that's what it's all about.
It is. Yeah.
And
people who did not like stand-up, they just used it as a conveyor belt to the big time.
The biggest road warrior I know, which is Bobby Slayton, okay, who's out on the road a lot, okay, and through his life has probably logged up more air miles than anybody I know, okay. He went to L.A. and he would have been very happy to get a sitcom and not have to go and do his act anymore. It's just that way. Now, the only guy I know who hated doing a sitcom and was happy when it was over and went back to doing comedy in clubs and on stages across the country is Seinfeld. And you can't think of a more successful guy in television.
No.
But he didn't like it. He didn't like the pressure. He didn't, he talks about it all the time, that when it was over, he was happy. He was also about $500 million richer, but he was happy.
I don't know.
I just saw
what happens when you get to be that rich? There's a lot of different pressures.
Well, you can say fuck you to a lot of people.
That's true.
True. The thing was, I saw a documentary on the last on how Seinfeld came to be and all the stuff they had to go through, and they tell about Larry David, and Larry David on the documentary admits to it that he didn't want to work that show. He thought he would do the pilot, and that would be it. It would fail, and then he could go back to whatever he was doing. He didn't want to have to do that that whole thing. It says here I'm getting a poor connection. Well, you're coming through okay. Anyway, that he didn't want it. He didn't want it. And they finally, they said to him, well, look, we're going to do 4 more. Come back and do it. And we'll make you an executive producer. They threw him executive producer. And now he's, of course, worth, $250 million. He doesn't have $500 million because his wife took half of it, But the fact of the matter is, if Larry David had had his way, he never would have had that success.
No, the show would not have been a success.
Well, it took the two.
They needed all those voices in there to keep that show.
Yeah.
To be so unique,
Well, it took the two of them. They just said they were a perfect confluence of energy, and that what and they stood by their idea of what the show should be, and not that it was a show about nothing, but that it just was not about what other sitcoms are about. There wasn't the wife.
No, it was about minor irritations and stuff that a whole day can turn around, and everywhere that we've been, and you go to a Chinese restaurant,
that's an episode. And they stood.
And they didn't have to have a moral at the end.
They stood true to their vision, and their vision worked. And
in the last episode, everybody goes to jail.
And I don't think anybody's ever done that kind of show since. I think that was one of a kind. They've tried to do things like it. I always considered Friends the poor man Seinfeld, but it never was. It was Friends. It was a bunch of friends that hung out. So was Seinfeld, but the difference was some of them were likable on Friends. On Seinfeld, there wasn't one person there who wasn't selfish and self-absorbed.
Well, you were talking about a comedian and his circle of friends,
Yeah.
So they're smart, and I never knew what Friends was about.
It was about trying
Except they had a great apartment.
Yeah, I never watched the show. I watched one episode, or tried to watch one episode, and I went, this is a poor man Seinfeld, And I had no great love for it.
I don't watch a lot of sitcoms because I feel betrayed by the laugh track. It's like them telling you when to laugh, and I hardly
Well,
ever agree with their choices.
this is something I argue with girlfriend about.
Or their vociferousness.
This is something I argue with girlfriend about. She says she doesn't like laugh tracks. And I said, well, I said, you should watch Big Bang Theory. And she says, well, I don't like laugh tracks. And I said, that isn't a laugh track. That's an actual live studio audience. Because they feel, and Chuck Lorre always felt, that having a live audience, and not all the shows have a live audience now, but having a live audience keeps your comedy honest. You know when it's funny when there's an audience. You don't know when it's funny when you've written it and somebody does it and you say, good performance, we hope people laugh at that. So
Yeah,
I
still don't like the studio laughs. Then, even if it's not a laugh track, I just don't like it. It makes me crawl.
Yeah.
Because I've spent a lot of time trying to elicit actual laughter, and I know the difference.
Yeah, well, I just don't like it when it's pre-recorded laughter. In the old days, if somebody would tell a joke, "Hi, Bob. Hey, look, there's Bob," and everybody would ha ha ha, and you go, "Where did that come from?" And it was the same laugh track they did 10 minutes earlier.
Yeah, from I Love Lucy.
Yeah. But but when there's a live audience there, I say, okay, I'll allow that.
I don't watch a lot of sitcoms.
Although
What are you watching these days?
You know what I just finished? I finished on Netflix Designated Survivor.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
With Keeper?
Yeah. I liked the original show, but it wasn't that great. The new one, I think, is better than anything on Netflix, is better than anything they ever did on the network.
Oh, wow.
To begin with, they take advantage of the fact that they can say
dirty
words.
language.
Well, let me say this, and I'm not spoiling it because I'm not telling you why. The very last word that Kiefer Sutherland says after the 10 episodes is shit.
So it's a 10 episode.
Yeah, and
series?
it's really political, and what they've interspersed it with are real people talking to the camera about what they think is wrong with the country, made by documentary filmmakers. And they're like sitting there and say, "Look at this. This is on YouTube," and then they'll play some clips, and those clips are all legitimate, real people that they went out and filmed. So I kind of like the show. I think it really is a vast improvement over what they were doing on ABC.
Did you watch the first 2 seasons on ABC?
Yes, I did. I felt the second season so-so. First season, I liked the premise.
Yeah.
Now the premise, since you can't go with that premise that the guy, in case people don't remember, what happened was every time the Congress was meeting for the State of the Union address, the president, they would have one person who was a designated survivor in case something happened to the entire
Member of the cabinet.
Right, member of the cabinet. And he's like, I don't know, I can't remember.
Secretary of Housing and Urban Development.
Something like that, yeah. And they blow up the Capitol, and he's the only one left alive, so he's the designated survivor. Well, that works for a couple of seasons, but what do you do now? What they came back with was, it's now time for him to run for president. He's never been elected president, and he's not the kind of guy who knows how to run for president. And all the things that come into play, and his desire for honesty, and the consultant who says, no, you got to do this rather than this. And it really, I think, is a pretty good show this year.
Did they find out, did they punish the people who were responsible for the plot?
I think that was in year 2 they found
Yeah?
those people. Yeah.
Okay.
But this one, it's pretty, I think it's pretty good. And politically, I love it because, one episode they had, for instance, I just got finished watching, was about a immigrant kid who the parents came over the border because he had to get a kidney transplant and needed dialysis, and they want to throw him out of the country because they came in illegally, and if they do, the kid will die. So those kind of things,
Yeah.
And it's like, they're kind of slamming it. Let's face it, Kiefer Sutherland always was the anti-Trump. He was the president we all wish we had.
Yeah.
So, hey, listen, We've gone well over our allotted time, and we didn't.
Oh,
even,
no. I have so much more to say.
Oh, well, go ahead.
To opine.
Go ahead. Go ahead. We mentioned Trump once, and that was just now when I was talking about Kiefer Sutherland's character being
so
the
tired of him.
anti-Trump. Yeah, I'm so tired of him. And
I think the whole country is.
Can I say this? We can go over a little bit here. Fuck him. I don't need. I can let you run long. I'm beginning to believe Buttigieg is the best choice.
Buttigieg.
And I'll tell you why. I feel he's the right choice. Is because I think if he were out there making his case, he could win. And I've listened to him, and he's smart, and he has ideas, and he can talk foreign policy, he can talk domestic policy. I think he could run rings around Trump if he ran. And in the latest polls, he's beating Trump.
Yeah.
So
everybody does.
And he hasn't even
five are.
He hasn't even gotten his full
Biden, Bernie, Buttigieg, Harris, and
Elizabeth Warren.
Elizabeth Warren, they're all beating Trump.
Yeah, they're all beating Trump. So we'll see.
I'll be honest. I'd be okay with any of them except Bernie. I don't like Bernie.
I don't like Bernie either. I know. We're going to be hated for that. People are going, how can you hate Bernie? We love Bernie. What do you mean you love Bernie? I know people who know Bernie in Vermont and hate him. And they're liberals.
He's got the sense of humor of an end table.
Yeah. And I don't really think he could win against Trump. I really don't. But Buttigieg, I like him. I just like him. And I don't think the gay factor is going to be a problem.
And he's young.
And he's got ideas, and you feel he'd go in running, as opposed to crawling or waddling as Trump does, so whatever, but Trump, who knows, he's all for the Russians helping him, so we don't know.
And then the next day he said he didn't say that.
Yeah, even though it's on tape.
It's on tape.
Yeah.
Him insisting that what he's saying is true. And then the next day he said he didn't say that.
And then he doesn't believe the polls. Well, the polls that came back from his internal polling said the same thing that the Fox News polls said about these other people being able to beat him. And then
he fired his pollsters.
He fired the pollsters. That's killing the messenger. Okay. What the hell? Hey, listen. It's always great to talk to you.
Say hello to your lovely wife. I'll talk to you in 3 weeks.
And why don't you write her a nice note and tell her to close the windows? Ladies and gentlemen, Will fucking Durst.
That's me.
5 years and still talking. This is GabNet, the Great American Broadcast Network. Talk like you've never heard it before.
Hey, there we go. Will Durst, oldie but goodie. We like to run him every now and then, especially when we have nobody else to put him in this spot. I've been thinking about a few changes here. I was thinking, there's nobody that goes on before me like used to with the exchange. Maybe I could just start going on at 10:30 and not have to run an interview every night. That's possible. Yep, that's possible. Something to think about, folks. Something to think about. Anyway, let me open up the Skype line, see if anybody wants to call this here programmy. This will be my last night for a couple of days at least. I'm not going to be on Tuesday night. That's for damn sure. I'm having this whole procedure going on, the seed implantation, the radioactive seed implantation, and it's going to go on Tuesday. And I don't think I'm going to feel much like doing a show on Tuesday night, okay, to be very honest with you. I might be able to do on Wednesday. I don't know. But if need be, I'll take the rest of the week off. I'll take as much time as it needs for me to feel rested and ready to do a program and feel that physically I can sit here for a couple of hours. And we might go to that hour and a half format, at least for that time, in order to in order to compensate for everything and get, whatever. So anyway, I won't be here Tuesday night. Okay, so don't even plan on it. I'm not. I can't see a way. They said that they might do the operation at like 8 o'clock in the morning, which even if I feel great that night, I'm going to be too tired to do it. So anyway, they say that the next day you're ready to go back to work and play golf, as they say in their little brochure and whatever, So anyway, so our lines are open. I'm waiting for somebody to call here, but maybe nobody's going to call tonight. That'd be nice, and I can just say to hell with it and turn around and go to, go to sleep or do something else. Here comes Phil Meyer ruining my desire to get some sleep. Let's see here. He's already there from last night, so you can see right there. See that down there. I meant down there.
Hey, Alex, I
Yeah.
did see the green light. When you said the lines were open, I just clicked on it.
Really?
Yeah.
Let me see here.
It's working, I guess.
Yeah, it
with
is working.
light.
About Skype, I don't know. It looks like it's on, so I don't know. I don't know what the story is. Okay, well, you can call us anyway, even though there may not be a green light. I turned the green light on, but now there's no way for me to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, wait a minute. Maybe I can. Hold on a second. There we go. I'm finding a way here to see if oh, you're right. It's not active. I put it up there. Oh, okay. All right. Well, it's active now. Yeah.
Yep. Well, if they're listening, they'll call.
And if they don't call, then to hell with them. It would just be you and me.
Yeah.
And I'll just shut up, and you can spend the rest of the night telling everybody what a wonderful guy
Trump is. Yeah.
Trump is. Yeah.
All right.
Is my picture too bright tonight?
A little bit.
A little bit. Wait a minute. Hold on a second. Now watch what happens, folks. This is really fun.
Turn the light down a little.
No, it doesn't matter of turning the light down. It's a matter of turning the camera settings down. What happens is, watch. I'll go like just when this thing pops in. If it ever pops in, there we go. See how I'm suddenly. Well, first of all, I have to do
Larger
this.
than life.
What?
You were larger than
No,
life.
no. Just hold on. Just hold on. First of all, I got to take care of your camera, the one you see. Okay. All right. Then I have to take that off autofocus. And then I go to the other, and watch what happens, folks. When I play with this, I go here, and I go here, and boom! See how I'm square now? Yeah. But we get rid of that very easily by going up here.
Oh, yeah.
And then going widescreen. And boom, there we go. And then I go over here. See, I remember I had to reboot this thing, and I never rechanged the settings. And so therefore, I was ultimately very bright. So now we're not bright anymore. And we're cool. Okay? Looks pretty good.
Camera functions part of OBS, or do you actually have some
it's funny. It is part of OBS on Windows, but it is not part of OBS on the Mac. I have to use the old settings that Logitech has here, the camera thing, in order to do it. But it would be nice if they did, I don't know why they can do it for the OBS on Windows, but they can't do it for the OBS. OBS is the thing we use that, does this sort of stuff. See, changes the pictures and makes everybody come in and out, and that's OBS. And it's a kind of a broadcast switcher is the best way to describe it. Here we go. Josh Wheeler is arriving on set. Let's see here. Let me see here. Let me go here. Oh, wait a minute. First, I have to wait for you. Turn your camera on. There we go. All righty. Now, wait a minute. We've got to get Josh Wheeler. Josh W. He's got to be there. He is. Okay. And boom. There he is. Hello, Josh. How are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm okay. I'm surviving. You know, getting ready for the big operation. Big
Well,
operation.
Today's the day, huh?
30 minutes. What?
Tuesday is the day.
Tuesday's the day. Yeah.
And this is just a 1 day procedure. They don't. It's not like 5 times like the other
Oh
thing.
no.
It's-
This. They put the seeds in the prostate, and that's it. It's the implantation of the seeds,
yeah.
and then which will become a Jewish holiday someday. The implantation of the Bennett seeds.
So the seed prostate's kind of like the lime in the coconut.
Yeah. No. So we get the seeds, and like Albert wrote me, and he said when they put the seeds in, don't forget to water them and give them plenty of sunshine. You know. But it's an in and out procedure. If I go in at 6 o'clock in the morning to get set up for it, and the operation's at 8, I could be out of there by 10 o'clock.
Wow.
You know, so
That was
but
fast.
if I can't pee, I'll be out of there maybe at 3:30 in the afternoon.
Oh, if you can't pee, they'll just give you a catheter.
No, not necessarily. It's a matter of just peeing enough. But I have a catheter anyway when I'm in there. When they put me under, they give me a catheter. I don't know why. And it says in the information that it may still be in me when I'm through with the operation, or they may remove it in the operating room. So,
I don't like to splint.
yeah, very rarely do people need a catheter for any amount of time for this. If worse, it's like for a day or two. That's it. You know. But you just want me to go through the agony you went through. That's what you want me.
I had 10 days of catheter.
Yeah. But you got used to it, didn't you?
Yeah, I stayed in bed the whole time and only got up to let the bag out.
To empty the bag. Yeah. Well, but you could have walked around and stuff, right? It was strapped to your leg, I believe. So
It was hanging off. You tie it to like the belt on your. What's that thing you wear? A night, not a nightgown, but a night bathrobe.
Bathrobe. Yeah. So and what happens if it falls to the ground? Is it long enough that it won't yank itself out?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. But I don't think hopefully I won't have to have that, you know. But they still want you to pee before you can leave. They did that to me when I had the last thing.
Yeah.
And that is just, I don't know how to put it. By the way, I described that whole process in the latest episode of Life in the Passing Lane, episode 69. I've Got Cancer Part 2, which is up right now on the site, and it also is up on YouTube as a video. So you don't see me or anything; you just see a slide saying, Life in the Passing Lane. So
Yeah.
that's but I explained the whole procedure of the other radiation, and then I guess the number 3 episode will be about the seed implantation. And then I go home, and a month later I come back, and they do a CT scan on me and do some get some PSA from me, which will probably go up rather than down, they say, but don't get worried about that. And, and they just want to make sure the seeds are functioning properly, and they say it's not a diagnostic CT scan, it's a CT scan for their records. So I don't know what that's about, but, well, Bree tried to call. Okay. But anyway, that's me and what I'm up to and what I'm going to be up to for the next couple of days here. And, the only thing I guess that bothers me is that, it's going to, Bree should be in there. But Bree tries to sign in, and he can't sign in. Are you there, Bree, at all? No, he's not. Well, that's strange.
He's trying to do it with one hand. He's eating with the other hand.
Yeah, he's always eating when we talk to him. But no, it's a in and out procedure, and I like that. In fact, nowadays they really try to get you in and out of the hospital as fast as possible. If they don't have to keep you there for a whole day, they're happy to do that. Now, did you have to stay overnight in the hospital?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Oh,
oftentimes,
hello.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, now we can hear you. What happened? Where'd you? You tried to get in and you couldn't get in.
Well, when I tuned in, Phil was very loud. I was listening on TuneIn on my Lexi app, my Echo show. And when you said the Albert joke, I thought it was a repeat because I think you said that yesterday.
Yes, I said it yesterday.
So I thought, oh, this is a repeat. So I looked at the call just to see if it was ongoing. And,
At my age, every show is a repeat.
Okay.
So
I'm supposed to be helping my daughter write on why the Beatles can be considered progressive rock. And I said it had something to do with Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band.
Progressive rock. Well, who gave her that assignment?
Her guitar teacher at school.
Well, is that because her guitar teacher at school feels the Beatles can be considered progressive rock?
Now, for the next 5 minutes, can we stay monetized and not use any language, and I will go over to her?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
I love staying monetized. I've made, so far, folks, I've made $3.41.
Well, we're on live with Alex.
Yeah.
Okay. This, Alex, actually, you knew one of the Beatles, right?
Yeah, I knew John. Yeah.
John Lennon.
And I have done interviews with all of them except Paul.
Because he's dead.
Can they be considered progressive rock?
Well, progressive rock isn't a term that was in play at the time, and so therefore I don't think so.
They were rock and
I
roll.
read something online that Strawberry Fields was considered progressive rock.
Psychedelic, wasn't it?
They were psychedelic. That's the best way to describe them. Progressive is not a good way to describe the Beatles because when progressive rock came in, I was around and was at a station that played progressive rock, and it was groups like Squeeze and
That was alternative music.
It was alternative, but it was also considered progressive. I don't think the Beatles were ever called progressive. They were called psychedelic, and they certainly, the Beatles created their own thing. And
they did a lot of stuff.
Oh, they did a lot of stuff, yeah. And they evolved.
Yeah, they evolved, right.
Yeah, they definitely evolved.
I was looking up stuff online just to see, and there were people making the argument that the Beatles, they could be considered. Mm-hmm. My favorite band of all time is Rush, and I know Rush is progressive rock.
Yeah.
But they're not alternative, except they did have Amy Mann on, Time Stands Still.
Yeah.
So I think that you can say that the Beatles influenced progressive rock in the same way that the Beatles influenced everybody. To a certain extent. And the Beatles were influenced by Chuck Berry, Elvis Presley, Fats Domino, all the early rock.
I think they were influenced by those people because they liked those people, and so obviously those people influenced them, but I don't see that their music is the end product of that influence. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But
this is going to be a tough essay to write because Google slide presentation. Okay.
It sounds to me like her teacher probably believes the Beatles were progressive and wants her to.
He put them on a list. Do you have that list? He has a list of all the bands that you could select from.
Mm-hmm.
And
you have to go on.
Here we go. Queen, Jethro Tull, Marillion, Pink Floyd, the Beatles, Black Sabbath, Supertramp, Tool, Dream Theater, King Crimson, Rush, Genesis, Journey, ELP, Kansas, the Moody Blues, Led Zeppelin. Yeah,
they were all for the most part. They were either the ones you mentioned were either psychedelic bands, or were what do you call it? The hard rock.
Hard rock, right?
Yeah, hard rock. Yeah. Heavy metal. I think you get to Led Zeppelin, you're getting Led Zeppelin's hard rock. Yeah, but again, yes. What do you want to say, Tony?
Yeah, I can see. I like Zeppelin because I would think Cream Cream was before Zeppelin. I always
No,
thought
but you know,
Zeppelin was.
I'll tell you what it is. Okay, when you talk
Oh, now
about the
she's
word,
calling me. I'm sorry. Hold on a second. I got to give her a bell.
Tony?
We're talking about Cream. I got to see what the hell
She's going to get graded on
She
this.
does stop.
yeah.
She's going to get graded on this. We don't want a D for her.
Well, no, we
That's right.
don't want to do a D for her. No.
So we basically have to make the Beatles progressive rock, and in the sense that they influenced everyone. I think
What you
that's the
could
problem.
say is they were an influence on progressive rock. That they pretty much set the tone for what a lot of other bands did. They were the
Who's
influence.
that?
They were
What's
the
your definition? What's your
Yes.
definition of progressive rock?
You get a definition.
I'm trying to remember when progressive rock started.
Yeah, when did
exactly.
that start? Would that be?
I was
70s?
When I went to
Green
when
Theater.
I went to WPLJ in New York, the music we were starting to play there, we considered to be kind of progressive rock. And the Beatles were already in existence and Led Zeppelin was already in existence. So how can you be progressive rock if you weren't around when progressive rock
Yeah.
was defined?
That may be where.
I would think Genesis would be progressive rock.
Oh, Genesis, I think, is
What is
progressive.
progressive rock?
Yeah,
Like
but I'm trying-
synthesizers and
You're looking
kind of like long playing.
You're looking at Alex. You're looking at progressive rock as being the label that was given WPLJ and their marketing.
Yeah, but here's what I'm thinking of. The Beatles, calling the Beatles progressive is, I think, diminishing their worth, because you're pigeonholing them. You're pigeonholing them in a type of music, when in fact they were their own type of music. They were always outside of the mainstream. They were always, in fact, jumping ahead of the mainstream.
Yeah, you're right about that, Alex.
And
They could
therefore
play-
defining what everybody else was doing, and that even includes the Rolling Stones. You know,
think about it, Alex.
So-
They went from Helter Skelter, which you could say is almost heavy metal, to Sergeant Pepper's. I mean, it was two totally different albums.
Was that influence of different members, though?
I think he's right, no, Alex. I think they defined they could play anything.
I think Helter
think it was the
Skelter.
Bonds
What
really
album was
good.
Helter
So-
Skelter on?
That was
So
the
I
White
think
Album.
in
Was it the White Album? The White Album came after Sergeant Pepper.
I mean, think
I
about
think
how
in order-
great these two are.
Yeah, I mean
In order-
they did a whole different. I mean, Yesterday is different than Helter Skelter. Is different than.
And
And let's
Legion.
let's take two things that John Lennon did. He wrote Helter Skelter, and he wrote what's my favorite Beatles song.
Is it on Norwegian Wood? You like that album? That was a great album, I thought.
Wait a minute. Here comes it. Rob Alfano. He I'm sure will have some
Lennon was
opinions
a
about
savant.
this.
What if we say, we say that the Beatles existed before the term progressive rock, but as with many areas in music, the Beatles had an influence on most everything.
Yeah.
would say-
Rob, what do you think, Rob?
Genesis can only sound
Yeah,
one.
I've been listening to this, and in my opinion, progressive rock is more about almost like a radio format, because you could play a Beatles song on a progressive rock station. When I think of progressive rock, I think of Yes and Emerson, Lake and Palmer,
Yeah.
and those
Crimson.
kinds, King Crimson. I did progressive rock in college.
Asia.
And Asia is near the end, because that was sort of 80s now, right?
Yeah.
By the time the 80s came around, progressive rock was sort of, Asia was considered one of the super groups.
Yeah.
You know, that they were considered one of the, like in the 80s they came up with,
But-
because Asia was an amalgam of a bunch of different guys from big groups, right? And they were
So
like a
which
super
Beatles
group.
song? Which Beatles songs do you think epitomize an influence on progressive rock? Because it says.
Well, you see, I mean, here's the thing I was saying.
Sergeant
Here's the thing I was saying. I was trying to compare two things. Lennon, for instance, wrote Helter Skelter. He also wrote In My Life, which is a beautiful,
exactly.
beautiful
How
song.
Right, right.
And they are two
I mean-
entirely different kind of genres, but they're all genres in which they kind of created that genre.
Yeah.
You know.
You have the White Album,
That's
and
he's
you
a
have
genius, really, for music.
You have the White Album, and you have Sgt. Pepper's. Sgt. Pepper's was the one that woke everybody's eyes
Well, the
up.
Beach Boys went. Was that their answer to Pet Sounds, or was it before?
No.
Pet Sounds was the answer to Sgt.
To
Pepper.
Sergeant Pepper. Okay,
And the
that's right.
Beatles said they loved Pet Sounds. They thought it was terrific. And the Pet Sounds was an amazing album.
Yeah.
But what was really even a better album was Smile, but it never got released. At least
really?
not at that time. Yeah.
Hall and Oates
Huh?
or Smile. Hall and Oates.
Hall and Oates. Yeah, like I want Hall and Oates.
Oh, they're not bad. I like some of the hits.
Yeah, you like their hits. Yeah. But I mean,
I like Barry Manilow. I know you hate him.
So I think that we start this off. We just say the Beatles are an influence on most everything, and while they existed, they were popular before the term progressive rock existed. They definitely, because of their willingness to experiment and to fuse different styles, they had a major influence on the bands.
Well, the best word to use is seminal. They were a seminal band, and that they were the jumping off point for a lot of different genres. I mean, you look at the White Album. You look at the White Album. You got Helter Skelter on one track, and you got Rocky Raccoon on another.
Exactly.
How different can two songs be than those two songs?
I mean, yeah. That's kind of wild that it could just so much music come out of those two guys. It's crazy.
I guess I'll have to look back.
Well, actually, the music didn't come out of those two guys. Some of the songs came out of one of them, and some of the songs came out of the other. Very seldom did they ever write together.
It's a shame, Alex. He died so young, 40. You always wonder what he would have did after that.
They didn't write together a lot, but what they did together was collaborate in the studio.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, there's a great podcast by a guy by the name New York City jock who has been in New York City for years. He's a Q104.3. His name is Ken Dashow. And Ken has a great podcast where you get the history of rock and roll, and he brings in so many of these guys, and most every one of them lists the Beatles as an influence. In fact, so many of them say the same thing, which is, I was in front of my television the night the Beatles were on the Ed Sullivan Show, and that was the moment where I decided that that's what I'm going to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Easily.
I was in front of the television, and I said they need a haircut.
Yeah. I mean, it was... But, I mean, I think they were a seminal band, and I think that they did so many different kinds of things. Because they were constantly experimenting with their sound and what their sound could do, and what they and experimented with the studio as well. So to call them progressive, you can't do that, because the people who were progressive, they were seminal too.
I wouldn't call it progressive.
Yeah,
I wouldn't. They influenced it. I wouldn't call them progressive.
Yeah.
Well, Wikipedia
They're
says
a pop band. They're like the original pop, boy band, really.
Wait, okay?
That more.
Again, but again, right? They experimented, so they were so much to so many. I mean, so
is that
Oh, by the way, somebody just said here, Dave Polson said, Pet Sounds was the answer to Rubber Soul.
Oh, Rubber Soul. Wow.
Yeah.
That's something.
I never heard that.
I think so.
Right.
I think so.
So it's fair to say, I mean, we would not directly call the Beatles progressive rock, but we recognize that they were the first to experiment on such a grand level that they certainly influenced the progressive rock movement, and many of their songs have been referred to as seminal progressive rock songs. And we put the sources.
Really? What song? Well, yeah, I guess you could pick certain Beatles songs and call them progressive songs, but are you familiar with Yes? Like, I'm a huge Yes. Yeah. When you listen to Yes, those are movements. Well, Roundabout's a hit, right? But when you listen to like Close to the Edge, you got 21 minutes. To me, that's the epitome of progressive rock. It's either a whole album side or, an 18-minute track where it's almost like classical music because it moves. The song it's got different movements in it. I don't consider a Beatles song, they're eclectic, no question, but I just wouldn't call them progressive.
You got to find the teacher's definition of progressive. Is he talking about,
You're thinking songs have to be longer play-wise.
Well, not
like
just
Genesis,
longer,
two different bands. Like Peter Gabriel with Genesis, they were progressive. I think with Phil, they were more of a pop.
Yes, exactly.
I used to have
like Land Lies Down on Broadway. That's a concept album, which I thought was phenomenal. I thought Gabriel was actually more talented than Phil Collins, to tell you the truth.
Oh, well, I used to argue like crazy with a guy in high school that Neil Peart was a better drummer than Carl Palmer.
I remember those were fun arguments.
And we
Really?
used to,
John
but
Bonham.
he came around eventually, and he agreed with me that Rush stood
Yeah,
the
he's
test
better.
of time better than Yes.
I'll tell you. To me, one of the ultimate bands for being progressive, okay, were the Kinks.
Well, I like the Kings, Ray Davies.
Yeah, I mean that was, I think, a progressive band.
Yeah, you think so?
They inspired the White Stripes.
I like.
Yeah.
Okay,
They
we
were
ready to see
they
her
were
first
doing a
paragraph?
great actually.
We're going to have to work on this language, but go back there. This is what she's saying. The Beatles were a rock band formed in 1960 in Liverpool, England. Many people had called them the Fab Four. Though the Beatles could play any genre of music, we can recognize that they were the influence of modern-day progressive rock.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Yeah. Yeah.
Influence, right?
That's a good way of tying it together.
Okay.
Yeah.
She's off to a good start. Thanks to you guys. Thanks a lot.
Yay.
Yeah.
Yay.
Hey, Alex, why don't you just call Ringo and get him on the phone and see, what he said?
Ring him up.
Imagine he's got a Trump shirt on.
Yeah, I don't have his phone number right now. So.
2020.
He hasn't talked to me since I saw him in his office at Apple Records in London. So that was, that's the last time
Okay,
I
thanks
saw
a lot, guys. I'll be quiet now.
Is Paul listed? Is this number listed?
him. No.
Imagine he's listed with Cuomo.
No, I never interviewed Paul, and I never wanted to.
You didn't like
Is that
Paul,
strange? I often, my argument was he should have been excommunicated from the Beatles. I just never liked his music, and you can always
didn't like that
you could always
Syracuse
tell the
music?
difference between a Lennon song and a McCartney song. McCartney's songs were sickly sweet, and even if they were romantic, Lennon's songs had a beautiful poetic edge to them. So
But the biggest Beatles songs were Paul's songs.
probably
Yesterday.
yeah.
What about Paul McCartney and the Wings? Would they be considered progressive?
No,
A rock band.
They were a rock band. Yeah, but in my life is, for my money, one of the most beautiful
Right.
songs ever written, and that's Lennon.
Absolutely.
That's Lennon.
That's
And
what
That's
I'm
not progressive.
yeah. Anyway, so we.
Well, I mean, my college station, we used to call ourselves the Progressive FM, but we were playing like REM, Depeche Mode, The Cure, and like alternative new wave.
Mhm.
Well,
But we also played,
well, and that's why I said, to me, progressive is almost more of a radio format, because
Yeah.
it's about how you present the music. And with progressive rock, you could sneak in a Frank Sinatra song if it's in a theme. Because remember, back in the 70s when we were doing progressive rock in college, you would come up with a set of music, and that music was about sunsets or about days of the
let
week.
me explain progressive radio, the progressive format on radio, and then we'll get to Josh and talk to him about stuff. Unless you want to jump in on any of this, Josh.
No, that's okay.
like
That's okay.
Cincinnati isn't progressive yet.
Well, no, what I was going to say is progressive was a term that was originally coined by radio stations to say we're progressive, and what they said they did is they let their disc jockeys basically bring their libraries from home and play them on the air and play anything they wanted to play, and it was freeform was the other term they called progressive rock radio. And I went to work at a freeform station. I said, freeform? And they said, play anything you want. I said, how about if I spent a whole day playing Frank Sinatra? And they said, I wouldn't do that if I were you. It's not our format. I said, oh, wait a minute. You just said I could play anything, so much for, progressive
But you
radio.
could play a Sinatra song if it fit in what you were trying to do in a set. You could play a Sinatra song.
I would hear about it the next day on some of the stations I was at. Okay. When I was at WPLJ, although I didn't play music a lot at WPLJ, but if I had played Frank Sinatra, did a whole set with Frank Sinatra, they'd probably say the next day, why the hell did you do that?
Yeah.
And
I
I'd
had
say,
a guy
because
in
it's
Boston-
good
And
music.
WFM would get away with that, though.
Yeah, well, of
Because
course.
they were, yeah.
The college
I mean,
FM
Alice and
stations.
Steele-
Yeah.
What's that?
We had a guy at our college station who locked the door and played Beatles for 4 hours until they could find somebody with an extra key and get in there and take them off the air.
By the way, nobody remembers Allison Steele, but she was on WNEW here in New York.
She played
and
Tangerine Dream
Zachary used to go on before her at WNEW for a while until he came over and became part of WPLJ. And he talked a lot like this, This is how Zach talked. He talked a lot like this.
Hey, Alex,
And let me finish it. Can I finish the story, please? Jeez.
I didn't know it was a story.
Yeah, it is a story. But he talked like this, and he kind of was, And every night when he would be introducing that Allison Steele was coming up, she called herself the Nightbird. And he would go, Allison Steele, the Night Bird. And most people never caught it, but he kept calling her the Night Turd every single night. And, when he finally came over to WPLJ, I said to him, boy, you used to call her the Night Turd, didn't you? He says, yeah, I hated that broad. He says, they hated her.
What did she look like? She sounded sexy.
I can't remember what she looked like. I never met her personally. But
who was the one that didn't like you at the party, Alex? Remember, what was her name again?
Oh, Carol
Miller.
Carol Miller.
Yes.
Carol Miller.
That was a funny story.
Yeah, I'm going, gee, Carol, you sure carry a grudge for a good many years, don't you? It's because I didn't say hello to her one day in the hall, and she thought I was snubbing her. That was her. And for years, she then has hated me.
I didn't even think she cared
poison.
to get over it.
Yeah.
Drink her own poison.
Hating
people is drinking poison and expect them to die.
Yeah, exactly. So, what the hell, So I left the party. I didn't want to have to put up with that kind of crap for the rest of the night from somebody,
So PLJ went Christian, and now a Boston station, WAAF, went Christian. It seems like all the stations are going Christian.
Well, because there's very little you can do on AM radio anymore that's going to make you money, except sell time to preachers,
These are FM stations.
Or FM. I mean, radio is dead in the water. Okay,
Yeah.
And what it's been replaced by are podcasts, and podcasts are not as good as radio was. Oh yeah, you get your variety and you can listen to the stories you want to hear and so on and so forth, but it just doesn't. It's a completely different medium, and somehow it's robbed from the original medium.
I think that's because you can't play music really on the internet because of licensing.
But that's the same.
That has something to do with it, yeah.
I think it also because you had a finite amount of radio stations to listen to in your market, and in podcasts, everything is narrowcasted because you want to try to stand out. And so the difference between a podcast and a broadcast is the fact that that's why I love that guy's podcast that I talked about before, because they're very narrowcasted. You would never do that on the radio. You need more mass appeal.
Yeah, I guess you're right about that. But the thing is that you don't want narrowcasting on podcasting any longer, because everybody's out to make a buck out of it, and so they're out to get millions of listeners so they can make a lot of money off of it. And so consequently, the rush is pushing. They're pushing out all those nice little mom and pop podcasts. These big guys with all the money to put out. There's a guy on CBS this morning. What's his name? Mo Rocca.
Oh.
And he has a thing called Mobituaries, and that's his podcast. And every Sunday, we have to watch a 5-minute commercial for his goddamn Mobituaries.
Easy.
Yeah, I know. I didn't say anything. And every night they listen. I did my latest cancer thing, and I put it up on YouTube, and they flagged it. And I had to ask them to go check it and make sure. And of course, there was nothing on there that was a problem. But anyway, let me go on with what I was saying. Where was I? What was I talking about? I forgot.
Mo Rocca.
Oh, Mo Rocca. So things like that, and then he just goes on plugging it. Well, he's got the power and majesty of CBS to promote his podcast. All right. So what does that do to Rob, if he wants to start a podcast and have a little podcast, his little own podcast going called Rob Bituaries or something like that? You know, I've just
wonder if I could
realized
get
I had
sued
my
for that.
echo on, and do you hear that, folks? Yeah, I have my echo on. So anyway, so I just don't understand. You know what happens is the little podcast. Yeah, it'll get their listeners and so on, but it's never going to get the chance that a guy like Mo Rocca has, having this big megaphone to plug it. You know, so
That's how your breakfast with Bennett's were so, you know, your shows did so well because you could plug it all week on your show, in your radio show.
what do you mean? Those were radio shows.
No. When you'd have go to a hall and
Oh, when I'd have the comedy shows. Well, that was part of my contract.
these are the ones that you actually receive money.
That was part of my remuneration from Live 105, is that when I had these concerts, I could plug them free of charge.
But your plugging on Live 105 made them very successful.
Well, of course, because I had a very successful radio program and a lot of people were listening to it, so a lot of people heard my plug for the show.
Right. So if you just put flyers up on telephone poles, it wouldn't have been
That's
as
correct.
successful.
That's
if you
correct.
were able
I
to
had the
get-
place to plug it.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what this guy on CBS has.
Yeah. But I wasn't overbearing about it. I would simply do a spot for it every hour on the show, a little 1 minute plug for it, maybe less than that. And then when the show was sold out, I quit plugging it, and that was usually after the first day because the tickets usually sold out in the first day. You know.
Yeah.
So. But I mean, I'm not talking about that. You got us off the subject. I mean, we're talking about podcasts, and we're talking about the ability of the mom and pop podcast to compete with, you know, if the mom and pop podcast plans on making money, they better go somewhere else in life because they ain't going to get rich.
I was only talking about the power of having a show on radio, for instance, or television, and then being able to plug your podcast.
Yeah, well, you're absolutely correct. You know, but I mean, all I'm saying is that it's not. It's kind of, I don't know. Would you agree with me, Rob, that the average person can't do a podcast and really get a good plug in for it? You know?
The reason you do a podcast is to get your jollies. You're not doing it for money.
Believe me, I'm not doing this for the money. Although I have made so far $3.41.
Well, there you go. So spend it on.
With the other hosts, and you should get some of that, Rob. You know,
What's that? Say that again.
You could to the shows on the network, so you should be part of that $3 distribution.
Well, I'm planning on giving Jack Bishop 41 cents. So you know, it's.
How come so much?
Well, because it's a good show, and I don't want to. I want to keep him happy.
You know, something similar, Alex, is happening in newspapers as well. I guess in television, but you know, it's funny. It's kind of like our political system. You know, we recognize we want to change it. Mm-hmm. It's the same way that television and radio are changing and newspapers are changing, but we can't change it overnight. Like, I mean, we could say no television stations on the air tomorrow, no newspapers tomorrow, you know, and it all has to be digital, but we're not there yet. So it's like we're in this phase of what's going to come and what was.
Well, I kind of, I wish radio were in a better position now, because I do think it has a beautiful distribution system, much better than the internet, because you can, one signal goes out to, in New York City, maybe 10 million, 20 million people. You don't have that with the internet, because you really have to have literally a feed to everyone. Each one of you right now, as you're watching Skype, okay, or watching YouTube, are getting one stream, and somebody else is getting another stream. Another person's getting another stream. And so it's not as efficient as radio broadcasting was. The problem with radio broadcasting is it didn't know how to change itself. It knew years ago how to change itself when television came in. They stopped doing drama shows and they started playing music. And then they did news, and then they did talk shows. They did things that were became radio and got out of what they had been doing for years because television was now doing it. Well, once the internet came in and podcasts started happening, they didn't know how to adapt to that, you know. I want to know why some of these radio stations aren't running podcasts, you know, finding good podcasts like this one and running them as part of their programming. There are a few stations that have done that or tried it, but they really haven't gotten there yet.
Well, isn't that sort of like what are they like when they what do you call it when a station accepts money for time and they run the brokered programs?
Yeah,
they're basically podcasts.
Yeah,
they're commercial podcasts, but they're
when they have those docs.
And the reason you see so many religious stations is you've got these guys, these phony preachers with dollar bills in their hand who show up at the front door and say, "Sell me a half hour."
Basically, on the satellite television, Dr. Gene Scott was that type of podcast. You know, he didn't he rent?
Yeah, but religious radio stations have always sold time to these preachers. It's been going on ever when I was starting out in the business. My bosses took over a radio station, which was it was KJBS was the station, and the transmitter was on a street in San Francisco, and they took what?
CNET was a
no. Don't get me off the topic, okay? What they were doing was they literally had a religious format, and what they did is they just simply sold the time to all these preachers, you know, and they'd come in and pay good hard cash, and they made more money with that than they would have ever made if they'd gone out trying to sell advertising or had a whole, you know, sales department and things like that. So these guys who are switching to a religious format know exactly what they're doing, you know?
I guarantee you, if you had money and advertisers with, you know, who could support this show, this podcast, you could buy time on probably WABC in New York on a weekend and run this show, obviously a cleaned up version, but they would sell you 2 hours and you could broadcast this program.
Listen, I looked at Cumulus's latest quarter final, you know, quarterly money thing, whatever it is, quarterly report, and they've lost money, lots of it. They're hemorrhaging. Okay, they probably sell it to me at 3:00 in the afternoon on a Monday.
Well, WABC was just sold, so it's owned by a New Yorker now. It's a single-owned radio station.
Is it really? I don't think so.
Yeah.
Did it?
No, it did.
There are some shows that they will carry where you don't have to pay. I mean, like, if you know, what are they doing on the overnight? Like, why wouldn't you just plug in something that's different and interesting? You know,
is it free?
Is that the guy that owns the what do you call it? Grocery stores?
Yes, the guy that owns the grocery store.
It's owned by Cumulus Media still.
Yeah, but he bought it already. They're just waiting for the handover to take place. Anytime now, it's going to be owned by this guy who. What's his name? He's a Greek guy.
You know, a long Greek name.
Yep, a long Greek name.
Yeah.
Let me see here. WABC sale. John Katamidis.
Yeah, that's him.
You know how much he paid for it?
$3 million or something?
No. A little bit more. But in the old days, if I was going to sell an AM radio station with that kind of signal, because at that place on the dial with 50,000 watts, they could blast your fillings out. Okay, all right. With that kind of thing, it would cost. I think at one time I heard that WABC was maybe worth something like $200-300 million. I mean, that much. He bought it for $12.5 million.
Yeah, he wants to bring back the what he said was the original or the classic WABC, and I think that might have been a talk format.
Yes.
No,
music
it was a music format.
Well, no, I know it was originally a music format, but I think this Cassavetes guy wants to bring back
Casamadas.
the talk format. He was saying that he wanted to bring back WABC to what it was.
To its great
Well,
talk
if I hit the
days.
law, if I hit the Powerball, we will buy WABC and we'll run GabNet 24 hours.
Right.
And who cares? We don't even have to monetize. We'll just pay the FCC for the fines.
Listen, he's wrong in thinking he can go back to that format.
Well, that's what he said.
Yeah.
It's going to cost a lot of money because he wants live local talk radio again.
He owns all the grocery stores, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he'll probably have to sell them before he's through. You know, I mean, I think it's noble. I think it's wonderful. It's but you can't go backwards. You've got to go
But that was like
forwards.
the old days in radio. You'd have a department store would own a radio station.
Yeah,
That's right.
Yep, yep. But you have to go forward, you know. And I think what he has to do is go back to the basics of radio, but then modernize it. You know, put a new twist on it. But that means getting people to listen to radio again, and they've gone already. You know,
sometimes the retro stuff is what's hot now. If you look at
no,
cars,
what's not? No, I don't care what you're saying. It may be hot now. Retro may be hot, but not in radio. You know, nothing's hot in radio. Radio is
Especially on
dead.
AM.
First of all, your first job is having to get people to listen to radio again as a habit, and they don't do that. Maybe they've got Sirius XM in their car, or maybe they're listening to podcasts all day, or maybe they've just got their iPod, their iPhone rather, with their music on it, and that's what they play in the car. That's it. You know. Yep. And if they want to listen to occasional podcasts, they put that on too.
Isn't there some baseball team that's no longer going to be on radio? Isn't that in San Francisco or Sacramento or somewhere?
I don't know, but that sounds like, I don't know if it's, I haven't heard the story, but I would imagine it sounds logical, doesn't it?
The Oakland A's.
I don't know.
The Oakland A's are no longer going to be on radio.
Yeah, is that because no radio station will have them, or because the team decided? Because that's one thing radio does a great job at, baseball.
Yeah, but no longer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, anyway, enough of talking about radio, and we're losing listeners by talking about this. And of course, I care about getting every listener I can. I don't have the ability of Mo Rocca to plug my show on CBS Sunday Morning. Okay. So.
You went up to 1.4 on the YouTube subscribers.
Yes, we're over. We've gained a lot of YouTubes. Even after I did that, what I called my little begging for people to try and get me over 1,000, it just kept going. You know, we've gotten over 200 new subscribers in the last month.
You want to like one of those PBS style telethons? Come on, I need subscribers. Push the.
Oh, I asked people the other day to go in and go to YouTube and just watch the first 4 seconds of the commercial. You know, and my money went up by about 70 cents or something like that. You know, my revenue. But anyway, I want to bring up something. It's kind of interesting today. Anybody hear this story about Bernie Sanders and
what happened?
And the fact that the CIA or somebody, the State Department, had privately told him that the Russians were trying to game the system so that he would win the nomination.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Democrats don't quit.
Wait a minute. Wait, Phil. We know what you're going to say with something like that, so don't be predictable. Okay.
It's the truth.
No, the point what I'm going to say may not be that predictable. I think this is the one reason that we cannot have Bernie Sanders as the nominee, because it's obvious that the Russians feel and Trump feels that Sanders is the guy he wants to go up against if he's going to win.
He does want to.
This is nothing more than another Democratic plan.
No, Josh, does that make sense to you, Josh?
Well, I think he is. He does want him, I think. Because he see what he said about Mini Mike? He says he's so small he doesn't wear boxes.
Yeah, but Josh, what do you think? Do you think that the whole reason the Russians want to go fix the election so that Bernie gets the nomination is because that's the guy that Trump can beat?
No.
Yeah, I mean that if Sanders is the nominee, Trump will be reelected. So that's what I think would happen. So I mean, of course that's what they would want. They would like to have Trump elected. I mean, I don't know why Phil would say this is some made up Democratic thing or whatever.
No.
There are a lot of Democrats who are admitting, yeah, they can believe that because they don't want Sanders to be the nominee. So I mean, it's not a put on or I mean, making something up to hurt their own cause. I mean, that's just seems to be the case.
I think
I don't want him to be the nominee.
You got to look further. You got to say to yourself, the Russians don't care who's president. They don't care who's running. They don't care who wins. What they care about is creating a dissension in the country.
Boy, am I sorry I got into politics tonight. I'm sorry I even brought it up.
And a disbelief in our system. Going. So, okay.
You know.
You don't hear my opinion.
I mean, I don't know why the Russians would not care who the president. I think they care a great deal. I think all countries care a great deal who the leader of their opposing, leadership is in the world standing. I mean, that's why they meddle in each other's elections. I mean, we've done it for, decades. I mean, it seems like why would we care who the president of some little tiny country in South America is, but yet over the years we've taken interest in it. So I don't find it far-fetched to believe that a country like Russia would care great about who the president of the United States is. I mean, we're their number one adversary.
Yeah, but why would Russia work to try and get Bernie Sanders nominated? And the only thing I can think of is because they want Trump to win. It's their opinion that that's what it's going to take for Trump to win.
Why wouldn't they want Trump to win? In his tenure, they have enjoyed a pretty decent run of success here. I mean, it's. I'm sure that that's how people look at it. Why wouldn't you want him to continue to win? That's just like if you're an Ohio State football fan, you'd like to see Jim Harbaugh coached Michigan for forever because he's never beaten them one time. It's like, we don't want their coach to get fired. He fucking loses to us every year. This is outstanding.
Yeah.
I mean, so if you're the Russian government,
yeah,
I'm sure you'd love to see Trump stay in office for as long as possible because he's very cooperative.
I mean, I don't think Phil had
if you think he has good intentions, that's fine.
Yeah.
If you think he has bad intentions, that's fine. But the fact is, he's been very cooperative.
Phil seemed to have this idea that it was the Democrats trying to game the system by bringing this thing up. No, this was the State Department that told Bernie this. And I don't know why Bernie would even make it public, because it made me immediately think, well, then that's maybe who the Russians think has the worst chance of going up against Trump.
And I'll let Phil answer. I'll hear his argument out. He knows that. I mean, what would be the Democrats? I guess I just maybe don't follow, so I'll let him explain. I don't know what would they have to gain by making that up.
Phil's
to me, it seems like it hurts their party, but
because I wanted to try and keep the conversation going in one direction. Phil is now talking to people on the phone rather than paying attention to the show. That's rude.
Here's one of the interesting things is I read a poll that says Trump beats all the Democrats. The only one that comes close is Biden. And what I thought was really strange was, even if you look in Wisconsin, Trump beats Klobuchar by like 20 points or something. Mm-hmm. So like in her backyard, I mean, Klobuchar is always saying, "I won elections. I'm great."
I don't know what poll that is, but I haven't hardly seen a single poll that says of multiple Democratic nominees right now that he doesn't lose. I mean, and nationally. I mean, but I don't care because it's not time to vote yet. And who knows who goes and who votes, and who knows who says who they're gonna vote for is true. I mean, it historically, the polling is not all that accurate.
I, for a slight moment today, was saying to myself, I don't know if I'm even going to vote. You know? I mean, that I was getting that disgusted with this whole process on both sides. You know? I mean, yeah.
It's USA Today.
Yeah, I can get as disgusted as I want with, I wonder who Phil is phoning to, who he's talking to. Well, see what he's doing? That's rude, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean,
well, it gives us a break.
Huh?
You got company. He's on the phone.
We need a break. It's a Phil-free break.
Yeah, it's a Phil-free break.
It's brought to you by Phil-free.
Probably talking to Putin.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
It's a Quinnipiac poll.
Charge him triple.
And I know polls are crazy. You know.
Make it 4 times if he's a Democrat. He's probably charging somebody 4 times they should be charged.
What?
He's Bernie Sanders.
Yeah. I mean, I just
in Wisconsin.
I do think that Bernie is the worst possible candidate for the Democrats to put up against Trump.
But here's the question, though. If he keeps winning
it's on the states, the swing states.
Give it to him.
Well, I think it ain't over yet for Bloomberg. Okay. I think he's going to go into another debate and come back much better than he was the other night.
I hope so.
Well, today, you know what he did today is he actually came out and said he's releasing 3 of the women from their non-disclosure agreements. And I think those are the 3 major women. He said, if they want to, you know, it's up to them because remember that, non-disclosure agreements benefit both parties. Okay.
That's right.
And they may not want people to know who they are.
Yeah,
You know.
exactly. That's true.
So, and I think the other night when he had that thrown at him by Elizabeth Warren, who I think is just, I can't stand her. I just can't stand
take
her.
her on. She's like my 2nd grade teacher. She's not bad. I'm yelling. Enough already.
Yeah. When she went after him for that, he didn't have an answer because he didn't have his lawyers there to give him an answer. You know, I'm serious because I think he didn't know what the legal answer would be about whether he could release these women from their non-disclosure agreements. And now that he's gone back to his lawyers and talked to them about it, and they said, yes, you can do that, he's saying, okay, I'm going to do it. Does that make sense?
That's one of the things where I thought he could have scored points by saying, she's like, release them now on TV. You can do it. It's just you. I think, one of the things is he can say is, I like to deliberate and take my time and get it right.
Yeah.
I don't.
Well, no, what he did say, they said on the news, they said he refused to reveal refused to say that he would release them from their non-disclosure agreements, and that's not what he said at all. He said it's up to the women. There was some answer like that where he was basically saying, I can't just go ahead and release them from those without first getting their approval on the whole thing as well.
And you know what I didn't, You know what I didn't like what she was doing, Alex, when he said it was almost like she was accusing him of some type of harassment, because then he said it wasn't against me; it was against another worker and her or whatever.
Well, no, there were other workers, but it was a joke. I think that he told that was not in good taste that some women felt was.
She was trying to paint him like he was a sexist. I thought.
Yeah,
I don't know. She came across as crass to me.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't professional the way she was saying it.
Yeah, but she's on fire on social media. That's what gets you hits. I know that it's bad. We don't like it, but it helped her.
But you know what? Let's see how she finishes now in the next whatever they have. If she finishes 5th again, she should just drop out.
I think she's going to come out 3rd in Nevada. I think Bernie's going to come out 1st, and I think either Buttigieg or Biden's going to come out 2nd. I don't know who. Biden, I think, is pretty much through.
And you know what, Alex? She kept saying the women. What about the guys who might have signed non-disclosure? Why does it always have to be
Why,
one side?
Yeah, you're right.
Well, I mean, when I
Why do you keep
was
saying white H? It's very divisive.
when I was
There have been
when I was fired by Sirius XM, I signed a non-disclosure in order to get my my severance. You know, that I wouldn't, among other things, that I wouldn't sue them for ageism, and that I wouldn't reveal business secrets. You know, so I mean, non-disclosure agreements apply to males, a lot of males as well as females. In this case, these females probably walked away with several $1 million each, and in return, what the company wanted was a non-disclosure agreement where they, among other things, would not give up company secrets or say why in fact they did sue, you know, and that they, on the other hand, would also not yell at them either.
So, can I ask you this?
Gee, Phil
When
was
you work
listening to
for a
the
big
show for a
company-
while, but now he's not listening.
When you, Alex, when you work for a big company, when you get hired, do they tell you that right up front? Like, hey, listen, if we part ways, it's just company policy. So they know it up front when they're taking the job, right? Unless you're working for Phil.
Yeah.
Where anything goes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, I mean,
What's he doing?
You know what's crazy?
You got to
in
remember
Nevada
that.
is Steyer is actually polling quite high. He must have spent a lot of money there.
Wait a minute, is he still in the game?
Yeah.
Oh, jeez, I can't even remember who's in the game and who isn't in the game anymore.
But it's Sanders by, in a big lead, according to 3 different polls in Nevada. Then Biden and Buttigieg are fighting it out, and Buttigieg and Warren are a little close.
Yeah, but here's the thing: who gives a damn about Nevada? Do you know how small that state is in population? It's still the smallest populated state in the country and the most non-populated state in the country. You got to go 300. You got to go 300 miles outside of Reno to get to the next major city.
Oh my God! How do they live in a desert?
I think
the desert can be very nice.
Really?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
But it's so hot, Alex. They don't even get rain, I think.
Yes, they do. Best place, one of the best places I've ever been is where they hold Burning Man, which is out in the Great Black Rock Desert in Nevada, and it's just nothing. But it's like you're on the moon. It's like all this cracked, parched land, like you would find on the moon. And I got in my car one night, and I started at one end of it, and I started driving to the other end at about 100 miles an hour and turned my headlights off. Because I wasn't going to hit anything. There was nothing out there.
Everything must look the same.
But there was something beautiful about it. There was something just enchanting about it. You know, so, you know. You still there, Phil?
What is he doing?
I don't know. He just phased out. He decided to get mopey on us.
He's having his period.
He's having his period right now. Oh, don't say that. That's sexist.
Oh,
that's sexist, Tony.
She's not so friend.
Hey, I'm listening. If I say anything, I get shot down. So
no, you're not. You don't get shot down. But we know. Here's what happens, Phil. We know exactly what you're going to say.
All right, so that's why I'm
here. So quit being predictable. No, that's not why you're here. You're here to be part of the conversation and to maybe every now and then say, hey, you know, that wasn't right what Trump did that time.
Well, no, that's what you're trying to get a soundbite, and I'm trying to say that I've got a position.
A soundbite for what? For what?
I don't know,
my television commercials?
One of your the lead for tomorrow morning's news on GabNet, the 6 a.m. broadcast.
Yeah.
Phil says Trump eats Martians. You know? Oh, okay, that's good. Phil admitted it.
You haven't heard our 3-hour morning newscast every morning here on GabNet?
I feel good about Bernie's, his talks and his speeches and his rallies. But at the end of the day, I'm watching those Bloomberg ads, and I'm just thinking, you know, he edits it, the reality, and people are into edited reality. It's like the event occurred, the debate occurred, he wasn't that great. But if you watch his ads, it looks like he mopped the floor with everybody. And he has $61 billion. I heard that he bought all the Facebook ads for like one day. Like across all the streams, across everything on Super Tuesday or something. If Bloomberg wants to buy it, I think he can.
I think he can too. But here's the thing. He, you know, he. And what was the thought that I was coming up with? I completely
He's getting
eluded
bogged
me.
down with non-disclosure.
Well, no.
NDAs.
I was going ahead with just his power. But here's what he does with the commercials, and it does bother me a little bit. Have you seen the one with Obama? I think it's been running so much that you can't miss it. In which Obama is saying, and Mike Bloomberg has been a great mayor for New York City, and they make the whole thing look like it's Obama endorsing Bloomberg, and the very last line in it is audio of and that's Obama saying something to the extent of, "That's why I'm endorsing Bloomberg." Well, that was for his mayoral race, okay? Yes. You know, yeah. But he made it sound like it was an endorsement from Obama.
That's right. And I bet you there are people out there who would, after seeing that, would say, if you ask them, did Obama endorse Bloomberg? Yes, yeah, that's what happened. I'm voting for Bloomberg.
Yeah, but the last line in the commercial, am I right, is something to that effect of, that's why Bloomberg's my guy, or something like that, you know? And you're going, yeah, you know, the power of advertising.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think it was a great ad.
Oh, you know, if I had to show somebody a textbook example of advertising and of powerful advertising, I'd show them Bloomberg ads. Wouldn't you, Rob?
Absolutely. I know that's. I don't watch the news. All I see is the advertising, and it's all Bloomberg. And I like what he says. Or the ads are great.
Yeah. The trouble with Bloomberg is he ain't much to look at or listen to. You know,
looks like a turtle.
He looks like he looks like a turtle.
Look,
yeah,
he looks like a turtle.
Look at the people all around the country who buy Coca-Cola and buy Pepsi. You know, and it's really bad for them. You really shouldn't have that much, but they buy it like crazy. Why? Because there's ads all over the place everywhere that tells you Coke brings a smile, makes you happy. Advertising, I don't know. I think it works, and I think he's going to surprise a lot of people.
Well, look, let's give you an example. Everybody was saying, why is it that he hasn't been going to any of these debates? Why is it he wasn't in Iowa and New Hampshire? Why is it he isn't in Nevada? Why is it he's buying all this time? What does he want to do, waste his money? Well, he got into second place and into that debate through just that advertising. That's all that he...
His data analyst told him, don't go to Iowa. It's not going to be good for you to mix and mingle with them. But I don't know if he did like one and it were completely set up and all video and they edited it. Maybe he only needs one.
It won't help him after what he said about the farmers. You know, hey, anybody can plant the seed and water it, and
I didn't hear that.
Oh yeah, something about they don't have much gray matter. He was talking about farmers. Does anybody remember that?
Let me see here.
You're doing inside baseball. Most people are drinking Coke and Pepsi, and they're walking down the street, and they hear Obama just endorsed Bloomberg. I mean,
Bloomberg farmer quote.
Not reading newspapers.
Okay,
they're not watching the debates. Most of them. That's a very few. Those are the 25% here and 25% here that are going to support Trump and support Sanders come hell or high water. There's a vast majority in between. Joe's six-pack, they just want to go to work, get home,
so
try to figure things out.
They don't
even know Buttigieg is gay. Most people.
Are you looking at the derogatory statements that Bloomberg made about farmers?
Yes, I'm trying to find it exactly.
I never heard of it, by the way.
I did. I heard it several times.
It's all right, but it wasn't the kind of thing that.
Oh, okay. He said, and I don't know when he said this. He said this in 2016 at Oxford. Okay, and he offered up as an ad hoc history of labor, agriculture, and industry leading up to his own sophisticated era. He said, I could teach anybody, even people in this room, no offense intended, to be a farmer. Bloomberg told the audience at the Distinguished Speakers Series at University of Oxford Business School. It's a process. You dig a hole, you put a seed in it, and you put dirt on top of it, add water, and up comes the corn. He wasn't really putting down anybody. He was simply talking about the simplicity of that kind of life.
It's not simple today's farmers go through.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. As someone with an agronomy background and as a licensed applicator, and I fucking hate farmers. Okay, I can't fucking stand them. All right, but it isn't that simple. I mean, that's what I'm saying.
That's like this.
You guys that live in these population centers with a gajillion other people can think Mike Bloomberg is the greatest guy in the world, and that's fine. But I'm just telling you, if you drive 50 miles in any direction outside of them, you're going to find a bunch of people in this country who think he's just another rich New York asshole who thinks he can fix everybody's problems.
Yeah,
So what's Donald
wait a
Trump?
minute. Then he also said,
vote for fucking Trump.
wait a minute. Then he also said you put a piece of metal on a lathe and you turn the crank in the direction of the arrow and you can have a job. And we created a lot of jobs. At one point, 98% of the world worked in agriculture, and today it's 2% in the United States.
This guy's an elitist prick.
No, he's not being an elitist prick.
Exactly. So here again, people here where I live hear that, and even if they're accurate, and they say, "Oh, well, here again, us poor working folks should thank you rich folk for creating all them jobs for us to come work at, because we's too fucking stupid to do it on ourselves." Yeah, I mean,
and that's what people are saying. Listen to Bloomberg. That's what the country is hearing when you listen to Bloomberg, and you guys didn't even know it existed.
So I'm glad it works but it's not gonna work in America. I mean, why do you think his pollsters told him don't waste your time going to fucking Iowa?
Yeah.
Because Iowa looks a lot like parts of Ohio and parts of Wisconsin.
Yeah, but it isn't as though Phil. It isn't as though Trump is a man of the people.
I was gonna say, yeah, he's not a man. He's not.
What's the difference between classic hand tossed and New York crust?
Yeah, listen, Bloomberg
Trying to break this
has
up.
many of these type of statements. This farm thing is only one of many that I've heard. Now,
and are you upset that the farmers are being put down? Come on, Phil, you don't give a crap about farmers. You don't care about farmers in the least.
You're just picking on something to pick on something.
A limousine liberal elitist prick. I'm glad that he just wasted $500 million.
That's a lot of money.
Bad.
You're glad he wasted it? He didn't waste it, Phil. Phil, he didn't waste it. He presented to America a group of ideas that I think most of the people here who are left-leaning probably, let me finish, Phil, probably agree with. And so we're happy that message is getting out there and that he has the money to put that message out there.
It's a combed message. Today, Amy Manuel put up some Bloomberg thing.
Well, she's an idiot.
Yeah, and said that, Bloomberg could beat up Trump or something to that effect. And I commented and I said, only if he uses a box. And
he's kind of
I love how Ocasio-Cortez was going after Amazon for their how bad their packaging was for the environment with all that plastic, and I'm going, I get Amazon packages all the time and they always come in cardboard.
Oh, it's the plastic little air things that
the pop.
No, there's never that in there. I've never gotten it with that in there. What I usually get, if it's plastic, is the product that I'm buying is encased in plastic, which they have nothing to do with.
Well, yeah, those little air pillows that they'll pack a box in.
Yeah, I don't think they use that much at.
Yeah, they do. I get a lot of it.
Yeah, but Bezos just put $10 billion for climate change work.
Yeah, so I felt, obviously.
I guess like for Ocasio-Cortez, even if that was absolutely 100% true, let's say we all agree, we're not going to debate it. Mm-hmm. If that's the kind of shit the Democratic Party plans to spend their time talking about for the next 6 months, then Trump will get reelected, and that's why he got elected in the first place. It's because even if that's 100% true, I'm just telling you, in the area of the country where I live in, no one wants to hear that shit. I mean, it's not going to work. That's not going to get anyone to vote for you that wasn't already going to vote for you anyway.
Are these people
all we keep Trump I'm just saying, for all we give Trump his hell about saying I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody and all these people would still vote for me, there are just as many people who would vote for the Democratic nominee under the same exact circumstances. So,
Yeah. Let me ask you this, though. Let me ask you this, Josh. When it comes to those people in the Midwest, who is the best candidate to appeal to them? It certainly isn't Bernie, because he's like he's from the
it's the kind of person that I've told you for a long time. Some sort of moderate voice.
Well, who would that
with some
be?
experience, who has a decent labor relations background. Someone like Joe Biden. I mean, Bernie is not going to turn them on to that. They tried to get Sherrod Brown, the senator from Ohio, to run for president for those exact reasons.
You want to know what I think the problem?
See Sherrod Brown on the ticket as the vice
The problem is,
president
if I had to tell the Democratic Party to do anything, is next time the presidential election comes around, do not do all these debates. Just don't do them, because what you're doing is you're simply feeding material to the Republicans that they can use, and you're in the process spending your entire year and a half or more denigrating all the other people and fighting with each other.
You know,
both parties do that, but I agree.
When do the primaries end? When will we know who the Democratic candidate is?
The last primary is in like July or
it's the convention, isn't it?
Right before the convention, but
you see, that's ridiculous because they're not gonna have somebody, and then they go against Trump September, October. That's it.
Yeah, well, but see, here's the point. Why spend all this time? Then, because they have this debate and they start yelling at each other and they start making each other look bad. Okay, well, great. You've just made the case for Trump. You know,
right.
You've just given him sound bites. You just given him sound bites that can be used in his ads against you. And what do these debates do for you? They don't do anything. And then, of course, you want to get your poll numbers up, and you want to get your tweets, more tweets for you, and this and that, and all. Forget it. Just make your case to the American public, and don't denigrate each other. Don't fight amongst yourselves. It's just not a winning strategy.
They're going to denigrate themselves in advertising. That's the system.
It's a bad plan.
What do you
I think that
what do you
have it earlier. The convention should be earlier so that they know who the
we don't. We shouldn't
nominee is.
shouldn't have primaries at all. But that's another story altogether. Quickly, Rob, what do you think?
You talking to me?
Yeah.
Oh, I've been agreeing with you. I
just
don't
want to
like the fact that they rip each other apart.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a horrible thing. Even if they don't use it in advertising, it's pointing out the weakness in everybody that you're trying to put up to be the president of the United States.
Right, and you're trying you're trying to tear them down rather than build yourself up.
Right. It's supposed to be one party.
And both parties
go.
follow that.
I'll let Phil give us the last word on this subject.
Oh, hey Rob, are you sick? You have a virus?
No, why?
Oh, your voice, you're hoarse.
Yeah, I did a lot of talking today.
Yeah.
This is the American way. Only the strong survive.
Well,
but I don't want a advertising campaign to tell me who somebody is, because you're getting the message that they want you to hear, not the messages to who they really are, and that's what Bloomberg is doing. You're being conned by a publicity stunt or publicity rather than.
And please, let's go back to having the League of Women Voters run debates, okay? And get away from networks doing it. Well, hey everybody, it's been great having you here. Jeff hasn't said a single word all night, I don't think, right. Jeff.
Thank you. I didn't say anything wrong.
I won't be here on Tuesday, and maybe not Wednesday, maybe not Thursday. It depends on how I feel, but I won't be here Tuesday. That's for damn sure. I'm going to be, and I think it's all going to be okay. I'm just, I don't like the idea of being put under and some guy sticking stuff up my ass and, doing things like that. But what the hell? You know, they pay good money for that uptown. Anyway.
Report back on the grade she gets next week.
Yeah. Okay. Please do that. Josh, thank you so much, and thank you so.
That says that the Beatles are mainstream, and some of their music could be played in a progressive station.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Okay. Anyway, that's it. Thank you, Josh. Thank you, Bree. Thank you to Tony. Thank you, Rob. Thank you, Phil. And thank you, Jeff, who has not said a word at all tonight. But if you all wave a big wave goodbye, I will wave back at you. Okay? Bye-bye. Okay? There we go. You notice how when I put my hand up like that, look. Huh. It isn't supposed to do that, but it does that. Oh, boy. Let me see here. Let me hang up on all these fine people and tell you that the next guy up is Jack Bishop, and he's here with the Intersection. He'll be here and want your calls as well. Look, why does my hand do that when I? Oh, not with that hand. It's just that hand does it. Oh, I see. Because it's. Oh, I see. I get it. All right. Well, anyway, I'll see you all probably the earliest Wednesday. Okay. In the meantime. Have a good night, everybody, and I'll see you next time. Same station in life. And in the meantime, if you see her, tell her I love her, okay? Bye-bye, everybody. Wish me luck.